I have bought 32 CDs this month. And of course, like always, I'm going to go through them and give my first impressions on these. So if you like these videos, please give these a like, subscribe if you are new. And let's begin. As per usual with me, there's a ton of variety. And so I'm actually going to cut this up into different sections. So the first one here are CDs you've seen before. Like you've seen in the past, like maybe I unboxed them or I got them at a record store and I decided to show them off. So technically there's supposed to be 4, but 2 of them actually moved to different sections. I'll explain why when we get there. So these 2 I shown in a record store finds video. First up is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers with their debut album. Very solid debut, I must say. They're still a very new band, so not every song is, it's not part of my usual taste. But again, Tom still sounds like he always does. Even early on, he sounds the same. I mean, you still have good songs like Breakdown, The Wild One Forever, Mystery Man, and of course American Girl is great. So very solid debut. And this is another very good debut. And we have Elvis Costello with My Aim Is True. Now, again, I have not heard any Elvis Costello before. I heard the name, but not heard anything else. And I gotta say, very impressed. Like, there's like 13 songs here, and I pretty much enjoyed pretty much every song here. It's a good blend of like early rock and roll, a bit of punk, a bit of pub rock, and Elvis has a pretty unique voice that I quite enjoy quite a bit. So overall, very impressed with this one. So like I said, there's supposed to be 2 more in this category, but I saved them for other sections here, so I'll get more into that when we get to them. So now we move on to CDs that kind of fall in the more rock category, and there's quite a bit here. So again, we'll go through these pretty quickly. First up, we have the Rolling Stones with Out of Our Heads. As you can see right here, one of their early albums from 1965, I believe. Of course, it's known for having the big hits, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, which is a classic. But there's some other good songs here as well, like The Last Time, of course. I also really enjoyed Mercy Mercy. Let's see, there's a random live cut, which I don't care for. That's like a big rule of mine. No random live cuts on my studio albums, unless you somehow manage to make it so I don't notice. But they don't really do that here. But regardless, Cry to Me is pretty solid. That's How Strong My Love is pretty good. It's a solid album by them. I'm definitely starting to warm up to a little bit more of their early stuff, so this is definitely a nice one here to get. This next one is an album I hear quite a bit, and the band is called Big Star, and this is their debut album, #1 record. Ironically, it didn't become #1 very much. It kind of had to grow a little bit to start getting some recognition. And again, I hear people in the VC talk about this album from time to time, and after giving it a listen, I can kind of see why. It's a very good rock album. It's a good blend of, kind of like your classic rock, maybe a little bit of glam, but there's also some acoustic guitar here as well, kind of more folky sort of stuff. Again, like, I pretty much enjoyed all the songs here. Some decent vocals here all around. Yeah, I was very impressed with this album. It could grow on me the more I hear it, but yeah, I'm very happy to have this one in the collection, as well as this one right here. We have Iggy Pop, or Iggy and the Stooges, with Raw Power. Again, another, this is like considered a classic. Definitely one of the most recognizable Iggy Pop albums, or the Stooges. I always get those 2 confused sometimes. But here we have some notable songs like Search and Destroy, Raw Power, Death Trip, Gimme Danger. Kind of like sort of a precursor to like punk rock, shall we say. Iggy Pop definitely has a very unique vocal style, and the band is pretty hard rocking too, so I enjoy this quite a bit. Then we have Amy Mann with I'm With Stupid. Very funny album cover with the refrigerator magnets there. So again, I know quite a bit of Amy Mann. I just know one album, and that is Whatever. That's her debut, and this is her follow-up album, and pretty solid. I still prefer the debut though. I think the debut is a bit stronger, but there's some decent songs here as well, like Long Shot, Sugar Coated, Frankenstein, That's Just What You Are, which I actually have a single CD version of it thanks to Steve. And other than that, yeah, pretty much good old 90s kind of alternative rock, and Amy Mann still has a great voice here, so I enjoyed it. Not one of my favorites though. Alright, this one I'm probably not going to give my first impressions right now, because this particular album is part of our little album exchange I do with Jason the Old Millennial, Nick from Townsend 505, and Adam from What the Gym. This was actually Adam's suggestion, and he suggested that we all listen to this one. We have Ian Hunter, and this is his latest album from last year, I think. This is Defiance Part 1. So we'll see if there's a Part 2. But, this is Ian Hunter, pretty late in the game. Released on Sun Records. That's interesting. Again, I'm not going to give my in-depth thoughts now, but again, go to the Jason the Old Millennial over on his channel. We do the album exchange. As of this recording, I forgot when we're gonna do it, but we will at some point. So look forward to that. I'll probably share it on the community tab on my channel. So look forward to that. Okay, and now we get to this one. This was a gift from my good friend Scott from SoundLab Studios and also Scrap Dog Scott's Records. I wasn't expecting this. He didn't tell me he was going to send this. And when I opened it up, I thought it was going to be something else. And when I opened it up, this is what I saw. Yeah. It's Fleetwood Mac Mr Wonderful, their second album from '68, I think. Me, Scott, and Nick over on Nick's channel, we already reviewed this album. If you have not seen it, I would recommend it, but if you're a fan of this album, probably don't watch it. I was not a fan of this album. I know there are some fans of Fleetwood Mac that prefer this version of them during their blues phase. The debut's fine. I like the debut. But this... Seriously? People think this is good? I'm going to be a little harsh now, but because it's like more of the same. It's like the type of blues rock that's, it's whatever. Doesn't really excite me. And the biggest sin on this album is that you have Jeremy Spencer perform the same riff 4 frickin' times on this album. I mean, I'm gonna hear that riff in my dreams. Oh, sorry, had a flashback there. But yeah, this album sucks. I hate it. Thank you, Scott, for sending me this. Now we calm down, and now let's talk about a good Fleetwood Mac album now. And that is Heroes Are Hard to Find. Album cover is not that good though. Of course, Mick Fleetwood always has to look weird. I mean, as we already know. But this is a much better album, in my opinion. This is the last album with Bob Welch on lead vocals, and good stuff here. I mean, title track by Christine McVie, great song, Coming Home, Angel, Bermuda Triangle, that's a good song, love Bermuda Triangle. Then you have Prove Your Love, a very great underrated song from Christine, love that song. And then you have Safe Harbor, which is a very haunting song for Bob Welch to go out with, especially when you know how he passed away. But overall, very good album, very enjoyable stuff here. Okay, and then these next two are by the same artist. We have Sir Paul McCartney. I got 2 from him this month. We have one from Wings. We have Red Rose Speedway. Very solid album. Quite enjoy this quite a bit. Again, it's part of those like archival collections, so you have the booklet built in, which is always cool. But yeah, I just realized there's Braille back here. I just realized that's kind of cool, especially for the blind people, I'm assuming. But yeah, of course you have My Love, which is the hit on here. I enjoyed Big Barn Red. Let's see what else I like. One More Kiss was pretty good. Little Lamb Dragonfly I liked. Let's see, and the medley was pretty cool as well. I quite liked it. A very solid album. Probably not one of my favorites. Of course, this was the same year he released Band on the Run, so of course it's hard to compare, but I still quite enjoy this one, so there we go. And the other Paul McCartney album I got was actually part of his more recent output. This came out when 2007, I think. We have Memory Almost Full, and I have this like deluxe edition where it has not just the original album, but it also comes with a DVD. I believe the DVD is it's a live concert, and some videos, some music videos, I guess, around that time as well, which is kind of interesting there. You open it up, got this picture of Paul there. Kind of makes a photo. Let me just adjust this real quick. I have no idea if this is correct. I'm not sure the bottom one's correct, but I know I got the top part. All right. Then you have this like create your own thing here, which is interesting. But yeah, another pretty solid album. I think I preferred, last month I bought New, and I think comparing New to this, I think I still prefer New. But again, there's some nice songs like Dance Tonight, You Tell Me, Gratitude, Nod Your Head's kind of fun, End of the End is a really nice one. So yeah, very solid album here as well. And to kind of close off the rock portion of this video, I mean, this is kind of a weird mixture of many genres, but this is actually a solo artist. Of course, the solo artist is Todd Rundgren, and this is his album, Something Anything. I do like the album cover. I think the album cover is very pretty. And it's in this like cardboard box because it is a 2 CD pack. Because I know the original, according to research, the original album was a double, and so it's one of those where they kind of put the album in 2 separate discs, which is kind of interesting. So this is disc 1, which has the original cover on it, and then disc 2 is kind of like this random photo of Todd here. It's a bit hard to see because it's kind of dark, but yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was definitely a lot of fun to go through. Again, tons of variety. You have like pop, baroque pop, some rock, some experimental stuff. So if you're a Todd Rundgren fan, let me know some other stuff I should check out, because again, I'm very familiar with his name. I know he produced a lot of stuff. I know he's appeared on quite a bit of albums from other artists, so he's pretty well known in the music scene. But yeah, there we go, and that concludes the rock section of this video. Next up, we have the metal category. Now, the metal category is going to be pretty short because I only bought 3, but some good stuff though. First up, we actually have an EP. I actually found it at a record store, and that's Queensryche's EP. So this is their first kind of recording that they put out, and only 5 songs. Of course, again, it's an EP, so that's going to be a given. And again, a lot of the songs here are very good. Actually, technically there's 4. I think the last song is like a bonus track. Starts out with Queen of the Reich, killer opening song. Again, Jeff Tate's vocals just absolutely phenomenal. Night Rider, Blinded, The Lady Wore Black, great stuff. And then you have Prophecy as like a bonus song, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, very happy to find this one. And then we have, I believe they're from Germany if I'm not mistaken. This is a power metal band, and we have Halloween, Better Than Raw. Album cover is pretty interesting, I must say. Here's the back. Very enjoyable, very heavy, good guitar work all around. The vocals again, they're German. Again, I'm assuming they're German, but they definitely have a little bit of an accent that you can hear, but doesn't bother me. Some nice soloing. Yeah, all around very enjoyable. Again, not one of my favorites this month, but still some nice moments. Now this is another one I'm going to save my opinion on, because if I'm not mistaken, me and Nick are going to include it in our Black Sabbath series on Nick's channel. If you've not been watching our Black Sabbath series, again, I'll leave a link to that in the description. We're having a lot of fun doing it every Saturday. And this one we're including, even though it's not technically called Black Sabbath, but you know, it's close enough. So the band is Heaven and Hell, and the album is called The Devil You Know. And the reason why we're including it in the Black Sabbath is because you have Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Vinny Appice, and Ronnie James Dio. So basically the same lineup as The Mob Rules and The Humanizer. I don't know the story. I mean, I've heard the story of why it's not called Black Sabbath. I've heard conflicting, either they wanted to use the name but they couldn't, or they just want to separate themselves from Black Sabbath. So I hear those are the two main stories, but regardless, yeah, I definitely had to get it solely because of its kind of history, and I do know this is the last album to feature Ronnie James Dio before he passed away. So again, I'm going to save my opinion when we get to that episode, so stay tuned for it, but all I'll say is that it's very nice to have it here. Now we move on to some country. That's right, I actually got quite a bit of country this month. And this is why, if you remember in the beginning, I said there were two that you've seen before, but I put them off till later. Well, later is now, because the other two are in this category. So first up we have Marty Robbins, Gunfighter Ballads and Trail Songs. Again, really don't like this new version, this cover they put on this thing. Kind of cheesy, kind of corny. But of course it has the big hit Big Iron, which I told the story before, but I first heard it on Fallout New Vegas. Great video game. It's just a very enjoyable listen. It's just like 50s country rock. You know, some other songs that stood out, like Cool Water, Billy the Kid, of course El Paso, Running Gun, Strawberry Roan. I forgot how you say it. Rome. I'm pretty sure it's Rome. I don't know. But other than that, it's an enjoyable album. I dug it quite a bit. So very good to find that. And then we have some Garth Brooks. So I shown these off in that record store finds video. So this one I found from an old bunch of CDs in the garage for some reason. We have No Fences, and then the other album I got from the record store was The Chase. So yeah, of course, like many people know, Garth Brooks is very hard to listen to online these days because he's not on Spotify, and very hard to find on YouTube as well. But found these two, so might as well give them a go. And again, very enjoyable stuff. Again, it's not the type of music I'll go back to, but I will acknowledge there are some great songs on these albums. We'll start with this album. It's probably my favorite of the two. You have The Thunder Rolls, which is a classic in his catalog. You have Victim of the Game, Wild Horses, which it's funny enough not a cover of the Rolling Stones. And probably my favorite song on here is Unanswered Prayers. I think that's a really nice ballad. So very solid stuff here, and this one's pretty good as well. Of course we have We Shall Be Free, Mr. Right, let's see, Learning to Live Again. I will say though, when it comes to Garth Brooks, I find myself liking his ballads more. When he's doing more of like a country rock thing, I don't know, not quite my thing. But his ballads are very solid too, so I'll give him that. And here's another album that I'm gonna save my opinions on for a later video, but I got Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is going to be one of those artists where there's going to be a lot of big fans of hers and there's going to be a lot of haters. I'm not going to say where I land, but there's a reason why I bought this, and I will tease it here. I'm planning a little series going through her discography. So I'm going to save my opinion on her debut at some point, but I'm not going to say when, but I am currently writing a script for it, so there you go. That's all I'll say on that. And now we move on to the shortest of the categories, and that is the hip hop category. That's right, I bought some hip hop. Well, one hip hop. And you know, this is by a pretty notable act from the 80s. And I saw it in the record store. I'm like, why not? I think we'll give it a chance. We have Run DMC, Raising Hell. Of course, the most notable song on here, at least if you're a rock fan, is the Walk This Way collaboration with Aerosmith. Of course, if you want to be technical, it's really Steven Tyler and Joe Perry. I'm pretty sure the rest of the band were involved. But you know, again, they're pretty influential in the genre, so I'm like, yeah, I might as well give it a chance. Even though I've said I'm not the hugest hip hop and rap fan, you know, I can get with it sometimes. And for the most part, yeah, it's not bad. Again, it's not the stuff I'll go back to often, but for what it is, it's fun. It's fun listen. You know, by this point, hip hop around this time is a lot of people kind of rapping about how awesome they are. Not as dirty as how the 90s would get, or as violent as the 90s would get. But you know, it's supposed to be like this. You're supposed to have these beats and people just flowing along with the beat. But yeah, overall, I don't have much to say on it. But it's not one of my favorites I've listened to this year. But I'm not going to say I hated it. So there you go. And now we move on to quote-unquote newer albums. So kind of more modern stuff. And this is probably the oldest of the modern stuff. This came out in 1990, but I just put them all in one section. So we have Depeche Mode. And this is the album Violator. Probably their most well-known album. You know, they're pretty influential in the electronic rock category, electropop, I guess. And you know, I know some songs by them, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert. So I wanted to try them out. And for the most part, I like this album. Very good stuff. I mean, World in My Eyes is good. Sweetest Perfection. Of course, it has the big hits, Personal Jesus, which is great. Probably my favorite Depeche Mode songs on here, Enjoy the Silence. Love that one. Not a whole lot to say about it, but I feel like this is going to be one of those albums that's going to grow on me the more I hear it. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. And still in the 90s here, this was, I will say it right here, this was probably the biggest shock. Like I came in with very low expectations, but we might have another obsession coming up. And so the album is called Debut, and the artist is Bjork. Yeah. Again, I came in with low expectations. I didn't think I was going to like it. But hearing it, I'm like, it's actually kind of interesting. I mean, Bjork is from, I believe she's from Iceland. And funny enough, even though this album's called Debut, this is technically not her first album because I believe she recorded an album when she was 11, I think. But it was only released in Iceland. It wasn't like an international album until we get to this thing, where obviously she's a lot older by this point. And again, this is a very, I could see people liking this and people not liking it because it's very, very, not too strange. It's not the strangest thing I've heard, but definitely, her voice definitely has a very interesting tone to it. Pretty much the only album I can equivalent this album to is The Dreaming by Kate Bush. And of course, upon doing some quick research, I found out that Kate Bush is one of Bjork's influences. So, yep, I can definitely hear the influence here. And as a Kate Bush fan, I quite enjoy this one. Of course, Bjork is kind of more on the electric electronic side of things, where Kate Bush is kind of in her own plane, I think. If you like that sort of 90s sort of dance electronic pop sound, then you're probably going to enjoy this. If you don't, then you're probably going to have a horrible time here. But for me, again, might have another obsession right now. We'll see. I'm definitely want to check out more of her stuff. Alright, so now we're done with the 90s stuff, and now these next three are from the 2000s and 2010s. So we'll go with the, I guess, the oldest of the 2000s. I think this came out in 2009. Shout out to Jason here, Jason the old millennial, because I know he really enjoys this album. It's one of his favorites, and that is Strict Joy by the duo The Swell Season. Yeah, Swell Season. I keep wanting to say seasons, but other than that, so it's a duo. They were a couple at one point, but then they broke up, I believe, not long after this album. And this is kind of more like folk rock, like indie folk rock, from what I can gather. Again, I'm not gonna say much about it, because going back to that album exchange I mentioned earlier, this is another album that was brought up. So again, go subscribe to Jason the Old Millennial so you don't miss that album exchange and you can hear my thoughts on this. Alright, and now we get to the most modern albums in my collection. So last month I bought an album from this particular singer, and I actually kind of liked it, and I knew at some point I was going to get this album. So the artist is Ariana Grande, and this is her 2019 album, Thank You Next. Of course, it was a big hit when this came out. I actually vaguely still remember it, because that was around when I graduated high school. At the time, I kind of ignored it, but again, I just kind of softened a little bit over the years. And yeah, I pretty much enjoyed this one. Definitely takes more influence from like hip hop or trip hop is what I believe that's what it's called. But I still kind of liked it. I mean, it starts out with Imagine, and no, it's not a cover of John Lennon, so calm down. Needy is pretty nice. Bad Idea has this weird guitar lick or guitar riff. Not sure what you would call it, but definitely interesting. That kind of hooks me in. Ghostin' was pretty nice. Seven Rings was a big hit on here. I was never a fan of that one. But the best song on here is by far the title track. I've always enjoyed the title track, and I think lyrically it's probably the most mature breakup song, one of the most mature breakup songs I've heard, because I know she pretty much name drops a lot of her all the old relationships she was in, and the thing I respect is that she doesn't really badmouth them. And you know, the term "thank you next" refers to thank you for the lessons I've learned from this experience, and now I'm ready for the next chapter in my life. I think that's a nice little sentiment. I think that's a nice lyric. I think it's pretty nice lyrically. So overall, yeah, very good stuff. And the last of these modern albums here is by a pretty well-known. She's definitely becoming very recognizable these days, and that is Olivia Rodrigo, and this is her latest album from last year, Guts. So there she is right there. On the back you have that. Kind of funny, I guess. I'm not going to look back there very often. But yeah, definitely what's interesting about this is that it definitely has a very rock sound to it. Like it's kind of more on the pop punk sort of thing, but it's like pop punk, pop rock, and very enjoyable. Very surprised with this one as well. See, it starts out with All American Bitch. that's an interesting one. Bad Idea, Right. I think that was a single. Some of the ballads here I really enjoyed, like Vampire and Lacey, especially Lacey. I think Lacey's probably my favorite ballad on here. And then probably my favorite song on here is called, I don't even think it was really a single, I think it's a deep cut. We have Pretty Isn't Pretty. I just love the sound of it. It has a very 80s sounding bit to it. Almost sounds like something The Cure would do. and I loved it, and I loved that song. I think it's really good, very catchy too. So yeah, there we go. So far, these modern artists, I feel like I need to apologize to my current generation, because there's some good stuff. I will say though, I will say that. We'll see. I still want to explore more, so we'll see what happens there. What's a CD haul for me without mentioning some J-pop? And yep, we got a couple, well, two. So we'll go through these ones quick. So this one's part of the city pop genre. This is by an artist called, hopefully I'll say this correctly, Miki Matsubara, and this is her debut album, Pocket Park. There she is on the back. And she's pretty much known, I mean, this song was a big hit in Japan. It was called Stay With Me. And yeah, it's a great song. That's another song I heard while looking for bass tabs, I think. And very good bass line on that track. And pretty much the whole album has this kind of disco, dance, sort of funk sort of sound, which I find enjoyable. I still prefer Maria Takeyoshi though. I think I still prefer her. But regardless, I think it's still very enjoyable. I'm definitely curious to check out more of her, because I have done research, and she did have kind of a sad conclusion to her career, because I believe she died of cancer when she was pretty young. I think she was only 44. But I heard she still released quite a bit of albums, so most people kind of, at least in Japan at least, people still cite her as a pretty big artist. And then we have this next one we have from the early 2000s. And this is from an artist called Koko. And the album is called, I don't know, the title's in Japanese, so I can't really tell you what it's called. Maybe if I remember, I'll put the English, or what equivalent says English in right here. But I knew her from a couple animes I watched. She would sing like the opening of one anime I enjoyed, and I really enjoyed that song. And that song in question is on here. The song is called Re hyphen Sublimity, and that's the name of it. And I still look kind of nostalgic for that song. It's, it has that early 2000s like Euro, almost sounds like a Euro dance song, which is interesting. But I don't know, I've always liked it, and I like her voice too. Definitely has a kind of rock edge to it as well, but still has some like pop tropes around that time. Probably not for everyone, but I quite enjoyed this one, so there you go. And now we get to the final category of this video, and I'm pretty surprised I got a lot of these, but we have some live albums. So the first live album I'm going to show, so let me just say, in total we have 5. 2 are by different artists, the other 3 are from the same band. So first up we have Lou Reed, Rock and Roll Animal. Only 5 songs here. So you have Intro / Sweet Jane, then you have Heroin, of course from Velvet Underground, White Light, White Heat, then you have Lady Day, and you have Rock and Roll. Pretty good. I mean, I know Lou Reed has a very divisive reputation. Some people love him, some people don't. I'm on the side that loves him, so there you go. And musically, I think it's very good. There's some great guitar playing and some really good bass playing on here. I don't know who's playing. I should really look who's playing bass on this thing, because the bass playing on this whole album was phenomenal. Does it tell you? No, it does not. So I'll probably look it up later, but still, just some good melodies to it. Very nice. So glad to find that. And after that, we have a Lynyrd Skynyrd live album, and we have One More from the Road. It has pretty much a lot of the songs you want to hear. Working for MCA, I Ain't the One, Tuesday's Gone, of course, Sweet Home Alabama. Of course, it concludes with Freebird. Yeah, I mean, if you love Lynyrd Skynyrd, this is definitely a must-have, because again, it has a lot of the big songs you want to hear. And of course, a little bit sad because I believe not long after this came out, There was the whole plane crash. So very good stuff though. And now these last three are by the same band, and it's from my favorite band, and of course I'm talking about Queen. I felt like I bought Live Killers not that long ago, and I'm like, I really should get more live albums from Queen. Otherwise, what kind of Queen fan am I? So I bought three. First one here, this one is called Live at the Rainbow 74, and I love this purple color to it. And you have this like negative photo of Freddie here. So this is a 2 CD pack here, and you have from 2 separate shows from the same year though. So disc 1 follows the Queen 2 tour that they did, and then disc 2 is from the Sheer Heart Attack tour, again same year. So they were pretty busy in 74. So the Queen 2 tour, you have like the songs that they had at the time, like Course Father to Son, Ogre Battle. Of course, you have Great King Rat from the debut, Modern Time Rock and Roll, which funny enough has Freddie on lead vocals, where in the studio it was Roger who sung it. And they have Liar. And funny, it's kind of interesting, at the very end of the concert, they play a B-side. They play See What a Fool I've Been, which again was not on any of the 2 albums. Again, it was just a B-side, so it's kind of funny they close it out with that. But then by the time they get to the Sheer Heart Attack tour, then you have Now I'm Here. You still have Ogre Battle and Father to Son, but now you have Flick of the Wrist, In the Lap of the Gods, both the regular and the revisited version. Stone Cold Crazy's on here. And funny enough, this was before A Night at the Opera, but by 74 they were already closing their shows with the God Save the Queen's anthem, which is kind of interesting because that would later appear on, like, again, Night at the Opera. So yeah, this is Queen early on. Very great stuff. Great playing, of course. Then we have A Night at the Odeon. Of course, this came out in 2015 to celebrate Bohemian Rhapsody turning 40, and this was notable because this is one of the, I don't think this was the first concert, but this was one of the earliest concerts where they performed Bohemian Rhapsody live, which is kind of interesting. So by this point, again, you have Ogre Battle, Now I'm Here, White Queen, and then before they did Bohemian Rhapsody, where they would play the song live, but then they would just play the operatic section. They just do a playback. Here, they don't really do that. They play the regular song, but then it's part of a medley. So after Brian May does his solo, then you have Killer Queen, which goes into the rock portion of the March of the Black Queen, and then goes back into Bohemian Rhapsody for the conclusion. So kind of interesting. See, and aside from that, kind of the same stuff, but still very enjoyable stuff. And then the last album I'm going to talk about in this video is Queen live at Wembley Stadium from the Magic Tour from 1986. Again, this is the last tour with Freddie, and yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on here. 2 CD pack from the show. Of course, this was like the title suggests, they're promoting a kind of magic. So you have One Vision, Who Wants to Live Forever, A Kind of Magic, but then you have some other great 80s stuff like Radio Gaga, Hammer to Fall, I Want to Be Free, Tear It Up. Yeah, a very nice collection here. So there we go. That is all the CDs I have bought throughout the month of February. Even though February is a short month, I still was quite busy this time around. So thank you very much for those who sat through this whole video. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like, subscribe if you are new. As always, comment below any of your thoughts on any of these pickups. You can let me know what you picked up this month as well. I look forward to your comments. So until then, I will see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye for now.